Um, I forgot I had gum. Told them not to do that again. All this housekeeping. No, how's everybody doing? Enjoying the rain? Wow. How many of you were here last week? How many of you remember what we talked about last week? Oh. Death by distractions, right? Yeah, it happens. I talked about being pulled apart, like just, by all the different things and demands and everything that's going on in the world and our schedules and all that. And so today it's going to be called shutting the door on distraction. I'm going to kind of continue it, but I almost called it discerning distraction, because sometimes I feel like there are good distractions that are actually where God's trying to take us in a different direction or show us something, but we define it as distraction, so we miss the direction. Does that make sense? I kind of like the rain because that way it doesn't feel like I'm up here talking to myself. I kind of like the background noise. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to give you a little backstory. So I took the pastor position in December, and so leading up before that, I had started creating all these ideas, and it was really weird because Todd and Sylvia were still here and everything, and I guess a year before I started like really pursuing God in a different way, and digging a little bit deeper and trying to find direction in my own life and purpose in my own life, and in that I started coming up with different like ideas, and like I was writing these notes that were like sermons and these just all this. I was compiling this list of things, and I didn't know what it was for at the time. And then out of nowhere, Todd kind of came to me and told me, their new direction where they were going. And I mean, at the time I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know, I had no idea how to even take this. And then I realized, well, God had actually been preparing me for some things that I didn't even actually recognize at the time. And so I had all these vision ideas and like ideas, topics, sermon type things, and so I started looking at that list and all these different things, and I realized like God had actually started building my bank a little bit, so like when I did step up here the first weekend, like it wasn't like just hello, I actually had something to go off of, and so I had that, and I started working with that stuff, and then that stuff started to run out, so to speak. And so like my work week has progressively, ever since I've taken the pastor role, at my other job, my work week has progressively became more and more and more demanding. And we're coming up on summer, and I knew it was coming because in the drink business, in the soda business or whatever, when summertime gets here, like it's wheels off. I mean, if you miss a step, you're behind. And so during the summer and the months leading up to it, it constantly picks up and gets busier. So my work week went from about 40-ish hours a week to like right now I'm pushing 60, 65 hours a week at just my regular job. And then I'm trying to prepare a sermon, and then I have my kids sometimes. And what has happened on the weekends is Friday I'll go pick up my kids. I feel like I'm ringing just a hair. I don't know if that's out there or not up here. On Fridays after I get off of work, as soon as I get off of work, I'll go pick up my kids, and then we'll usually drive back to Canton, or somewhere on the way we'll stop and eat, and we'll drive back to Canton. I'll usually try to come up here for at least a little while, depending on what time it is when we get back. And And then Saturday morning, we'll wake up early, we'll go eat breakfast, and then we'll come back up here, and I tell the girls, go play, go find something to do, because Daddy's got to study, Daddy's got to get ready for tomorrow. Because all week, my brain is so consumed with everything else that's going on. And that sounds like I'm not doing my job, but I am doing my job. I am doing my job. But then I have another job I come to. So, and the whole time, I feel like I'm looking at my full-time job with Dr. Pepper as a distraction from my full-time job here. But what I'm learning is that I have to create a balance and give and take what God has given me and be a better steward with it. Use it better. But then I have my kids every other weekend. And so, but then I come up here on Saturday. Saturday is like my, I have like the full day where I can think about nothing but what I'm going to do on Sunday. And so I come up here, and so the last, I don't know how many weekends that I've had my kids, it's been consumed by preparing a sermon and not with my kids. And so I have my job, I have the church, and I have my kids. And I have you people here coming to hear the music, probably not hearing me speak, but probably coming to hear the music or seeing some friends or something. But I've got to get a message ready, but I've got my kids and I've got my other job, and then I've got some friends that want to hang out, and I've got a couple other friends that call me and want to talk about, advice and stuff, other things that are going on. And there's one guy that I've talked to recently, and he really needs me to return a phone call, and he really needs some advice on some major things that are going on in his life. And I want to talk to him, I want to meet with him, I want to, help him as much as I can. But on Saturday, I have a sermon. All week I have work and church. Tuesdays we have prayer meeting, Wednesday. So you see where I'm going with this? There's this constant pile that's in my head. And then I have this other friend that wants to start working out together. And I'm like, dude, I don't know how I will ever get a minute to work out. I just want to sleep for 30 minutes. That sounds like heaven. If I could just lay down and rest for 30 minutes, that'd be great. And then I realized last week that although I may be doing a better job and I may be improving on my responsibilities, I'm failing at other places that really need me and are really important. See, my kids aren't going to be 6 and 7, 7 and 8, whatever, forever. And I'm missing it. I'm already missing more than what I want to miss. And then so when I get them on Saturday, I'm not even giving them the time that they deserve. And so I did an experiment, and we're going to see how good it works. Hopefully that's okay. This week, this is what I did. This week, Mondays, I try not to do anything. I try to keep my head as silent as possible. And for one, I'm usually exhausted from Sunday. And so Monday, I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work. And I usually try not to think. I don't listen to anything. I ride to work in silence. I don't play even music or anything. And some people think it's a good idea to call me at 6 o'clock in the morning and have me and ask me to make decisions and stuff. And it's usually not a good idea because the decisions are usually bad. And then, I just try not to answer the phone. I try not to engage in anything extra on Mondays. That's my day of just silence, of kind of reset. And then Tuesday, it's back to it. I am trying to read. Monday night, a lot of times I'll try to at least read something a little bit, but I don't put a whole lot of thought into it. And then Tuesday we have the prayer meeting and stuff, and then Wednesday we have band practice and whatever's going on the midweek that time. And then Thursday, I actually get to sit down. I usually try to take Thursday is my time to actually start organizing some thoughts and stuff that I've been, collecting throughout the week. And so I'll start writing stuff down on Thursday. And then Friday, I usually try to really sit down and bring all these little brainstorm things together and organize them. And then Saturday, I actually start putting like life with these things, these ideas. I don't know how to explain it. I'm not good at that part. Anyway, so Saturday, I usually take it, and then my idea, my goal is by noon on Saturday, I have it all down, and then Saturday, I go try to do something to just kind of free my mind a little bit. And then Sunday, I'm here in a panic. Kind of, sometimes. But this week, I did it different. Monday, I listened to some things. Sunday, I knew what my message was Sunday before we left here. And so, God gave me a head start. Like, I actually had a head start this week. And so I knew. And so Monday, I just kind of did my brainstorm thing. And I knew, and I even wrote some things down. I wrote some good ideas down. And then Tuesday, we had prayer. And there were some things that came out of that actually I was dealing with in my own head. And so it kind of confirmed some things. And so I got that together. And then on Wednesday, what did we do Wednesday? Oh yeah, we did the worship stuff, and that was great. And if you missed that, sorry, you missed it, because it was good. It started a little iffy, but it was great. It ended up being great. It was a great experience. And that's the thing is you never know how or when God's going to move. But if you come expecting God to move, He's going to move. So then by Thursday, I had a good idea of what I wanted to do. But we had some visitors in town, and I wanted to make sure I spent some time with them while they were here. And so we went to dinner and stuff, so I didn't work on anything Thursday like I was planning on. Actually, I came up here and sat and started, but I had some phone calls and some text messages and some distractions, and so I didn't actually get anything done while I was here other than sit down at the desk. So anyway, and then just in time to leave and go have dinner. So I'm telling you all this. So Friday, I go pick up my girls, and I tell them, tomorrow we're not going to go to the church. Whatever you want to go do, that's what we're going to go do. We're going to go hang out and have some fun and enjoy our Saturday together. And I told God, it's up to you. I can't do it on my own. I know that. I can't do it. If it's not God speaking through me, then it's a waste of your time anyway. So I told God, I said, you're going to have to take this because I know what I want to talk about, but I don't know how to get it from here to here or here to here. So it's up to God what you hear today. And I'm putting that fully in His hands. Because I do have a topic. I do have something we're going to talk about. And we're going to read it. I hope you brought your Bibles. Because it's going to be cool if we get through it and our power stays on the whole time. We've already lost power once this morning. I'm going to be in Mark chapter 5. We're going to start in verse 21. So if you're there, or if you have your Bible, let's turn there and let's check some things out that's going on. Do you ever, so let me put this in do you ever say, okay, I'm just going to sit back and relax today. And then all of a sudden, the phone rings and then your kids come up and they're trying to talk to you while you're on the phone and you're like, yeah. You know what I'm saying? And then, you have other things you need to be doing. Well, I can't sit here long. Man, I really like to kick back and relax, but I can't sit here very long because I've got, this to tend to and this to do and that to do. You know what I'm talking about, right? I'm not the only one. We all have this stuff. And then how many of you have ever said this? And if I could just get away for about 3 days and spend some time alone with God, I'd get it. I'd have it together. I'd figure it out. If I could just go to the mountains and just camp out for a few days, no electronics. You'd panic if you didn't have your phone with you anyway, so don't lie to yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like like I've said it before, man. I'm going to take a trip one day, I'm going to take a trip. I'm going to take a few days, and I'm just going to get away from everything, and I want to go sit in the silence of nature or elevation or wherever, and I'm just going to get away. I'm just going to get away so I can actually get alone with God. And then just this week, like I've said that a million times, and then this week, God said, I don't just want to meet you alone, I want to meet you in the crowd. I want to meet you in the middle of your crowded schedule, in the middle of your hectic work week, in the middle of your hectic life. That's exciting to me. God showed me this. Okay, so all right, we'll read this. Okay. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. God wants to meet you in the middle of your hectic life. I thought that was a great point, no? Okay. All right, cool. All right. Cool. All right, so we're going to start reading. Mark, I keep trying to say John. Mark 5:21. Jesus got into the boat again and went back to the other side of the lake, where a large crowd gathered around him on the shore. Then a leader of the local synagogue, whose name was Jairus, arrived. When he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet, pleading, "My little daughter is dying," he said. "Please come and lay your hands on her. Heal her so she can live." Okay, so Jesus is talking. Jesus has a crowd. There's a crowd, okay? There's a crowd. Everybody say crowd. Say it again, crowd. Okay, all right, so there's a crowd, and Jesus is up against this lake. He's talking to this crowd of people, and then all of a sudden, the leader of this synagogue comes and is crying and begging for Jesus to come. Distraction, right? Because this dude just interrupted a church service. Jesus is teaching, and this guy comes out and is begging for Jesus to come heal his daughter. Distraction or new direction? We've all read the story, so we already know how it goes. So, hang on. Before I get too far, how available should we make ourselves every day? That's a question I came up with this week. How, even though, okay, I'm a pastor and I'm a sales rep and I'm a father. How available should I make myself every day to everyone? How available? Ask yourself that. How available should I really be? And this is the answer I got. See, if we're always available and give ourselves to everyone, we will eventually have nothing to give. If we're always available and we always are available to everyone else, we will eventually have nothing else to give. Does that make sense? If I make myself available to everyone else, but not to God, I'm eventually going to run out. So how open should we be? Should we take some time? Do we take some time to get alone with God? To actually seek God? Or do we just wait for Him to show up? That's just a question. No trick question or anything. Just a thought. Okay, so this guy, Jairus, comes and lays down. He's pleading with Jesus, "Come heal my daughter." Jesus went. He didn't say, "Well, I don't know. Can't you see you're disrupting something?" So Jesus went with him. Jesus had a crowd of people, and he stopped what he was doing because he had one desperate dad. So distraction or direction? So Jesus went with him, and all the people followed, crowding around him. And this is what I think, like, you ever see on TV where like the pop stars or whatever, like ushering through this crowd, and there's people all over. You know what I'm talking about? Like that's what I imagine. I imagine like Jesus is trying to go, like he's the guy. He's like Michael Jackson. Like I used to like Michael Jackson a lot. I mean, I'm still a fan. I like Michael Jackson. So, but every time you see Michael Jackson on TV, he was like trying to get around, and everybody was like, oh, rushing, you know. And I feel like Jesus was like that at this time for some reason. That's what I picture in my head. You know, and so Jesus is like trying to get through this crowd. Like, okay, so Jesus went, and so all of a sudden now this guy pleading for his daughter. Okay, we have an emergency now. Like the church can wait. We have an emergency. This woman's dying. And I asked Jeremy this morning, like, do you ever like? Is he in here? I don't know if he's in here or not. If you have an emergency, like he does the care flight thing, you know, so like. And Vance could probably answer my question. Like, if you have an emergency, if you have a call come in, and you pass someone on the way, do you stop? Do you abort the call and be like, "Oh, we gotta help this person first, and then we'll go"? That didn't work that way, does it? No. That's illegal, isn't it? Maybe. Right. So okay, the ambulance gets a call. Oh, we gotta help this girl's dying. We're going. You know, the flashing lights, sirens. Woo, we're going. And then, oh, there's someone here. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry. You can't just stop what you're doing and, you know, or do you? A woman in the crowd had suffered for 12 years with constant bleeding. She had suffered a great deal from everything she had to pay them. Whoa. She suffered a great deal from many doctors, and over the years had spent everything she had to pay them. But she had gotten no better. In fact, she had gotten worse. And when I read this, I saw society. I saw society because we're constantly running around trying to plug our wounds and trying to connect to sources and people and things that aren't doing us any good. We spend billions of dollars for treatment on things, on TVs, on new phones, on new cars, on new houses, on new everything, and we're always searching for something that's going to make it better, a new job, a new wife, a new husband, a new something to make it better, because if I could just get that source, it would be better. If I could just get away, if I could just sell my kids, not really. If I could, do you ever find yourself getting caught up in that? If I could just sleep in, if I could just, you know what I'm talking about? If I could, okay. But in fact, she had gotten worse. She had heard about Jesus, so she came up behind him through the crowd and touched his robe. For she thought to herself, if I can just touch his robe, I'll be healed. Okay, we have a woman that is in desperate situation, okay? She's been bleeding, she's sick, okay? Things aren't good. For 12 years, that's a while, not quite as bad as the man on the mat, but she's having a rough go. Okay, there's a motorcade going here. Jesus is on his way to Jairus' daughter. Like, Jairus is important. He's the leader of a synagogue. This dude, he has something to contribute. He has things that he can tithe. This woman is bankrupt because she's spent all her money on doctors and everything else. She doesn't tithe. She can't tithe. She's bankrupt. She can't help us. Let's keep going. No, but she knew that if she could just touch his robe. So now we have Jairus disrupting a church service. And Jesus turns his focus to Jairus from the church service, or whatever, I call it a church service. He was teaching by the lake. And so he changes his direction to Jairus. and goes with Jairus, this desperate dad that knows that this is something else. Jairus left all his responsibilities, everything that was important to get to Jesus. He dropped everything to get to Jesus. I want you to understand that. Because a lot of times, we won't drop what is important to consult or to get or to connect with Jesus. Because we have deadlines. We have responsibilities. So Jairus left his family. Someone else can run the synagogue. Someone else can run the church. Someone else can run the meetings. Someone else can make some money. And he left to go to Jesus. So Jesus sees this desperate dad and says, okay, if you're willing to come here and leave everything, I'm willing to go back with you. So Jesus went. And then on the way, flashing lights, siren, we're going to Jairus' place. I have a hard time saying that name for some reason. Going to Jairus' place to heal his daughter. But in the meantime, this woman, and I picture it like everybody, the crowds around Jesus and the disciples are like, kind of pushing everybody back. Oh, get back, we're going. It may not be, that's just kind of how I picture it, And then out of nowhere, this woman comes up and touches Jesus' robe. Now we have distraction number 2. If I can just touch his robe, I will be healed. Immediately, the bleeding stopped. And she could feel in her body that she had been healed of her terrible condition. This is the point I want to make sure we get. Focus on faith will set you free. Focus on fear will lock you down and hold you captive for the rest of your life. But if you focus on faith, it'll set you free. It's the focus. What healed her? Is it the road? Is it her faith? Let's get to it. I don't want to miss this. Okay. Jesus realized at once that healing power had gone out from him. So he turned around. Jesus stops in his tracks in the middle of emergency. Code red, flashing lights, we're on the way, and he stops, he turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my robe?" And the disciples said to him, "Look at this crowd. How can you ask that? Do you see all these people, Jesus? It's probably better to ask who didn't touch you." This is where I get that Michael Jackson picture in my head, where Michael Jackson is trying to get to the car or trying to get somewhere, and everybody's like, I say Michael Jackson. I don't know who's the recent person. I don't know the president. Or the president, yeah. Everybody's trying to crowd around. Of course, they lock the president down pretty tight these days. But yeah, you know what I'm saying though, right? Like, I just picture this crowd. I remember watching on TV and Michael Jackson have his hat and he's like just trying to get through. I don't know. But anyway, and so everybody's like reaching and trying to touch Jesus. Everybody's like all around, and he wants to know who touched his robe. His disciples said to him, "Look at this crowd pressing around you. How can you ask, who touched me?" But Jesus, he kept looking. He kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the frightened woman, trembling at the realization of what had happened to her, came and fell to her knees in front of him and told him what she had done. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace, your suffering is over." See, it's her faith. She knew that if she could just get up there, she didn't have to disrupt anything. She just knew that if she could just touch his robe as he's passing by, that's all she needed. That's all she needed. If she could just connect with Jesus for that second, she knew that she would be healed. It's her faith. And then it doesn't mention this. The woman there's no name. It doesn't have her name in the Bible. She was irrelevant. She was just a woman. She was nobody important. Or in today's society, she was nobody important. We didn't even record her name, so she wasn't even important then. She was just a woman, just like you, that had everything going wrong. She had lost all her money. All her hope had ran out. All her hope on the doctors, everything else had ran out. But there's one thing that didn't run out, her faith. She knew her faith. Just think of all the distractions that were going on, all the people that told her to get away. They were trying to break the crowd so Jesus could get to Jairus' daughter. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's this crowd just trying to rush along here, and somehow she's trying to fight her way up and get in just so she can touch his robe. Not to speak to him, not to counsel with him, not to discuss things with him, just to touch his robe. There's so much power, there's so much teaching in just that. And instantly she was healed. See, we put our faith, we put our trust, we put our hope in so many things. The doctors, the advice of our friends that we probably shouldn't be hanging around with to begin with, because their advice is just tearing us farther down half the time. You see what I'm saying? Like, everything was wrong. She was sick. But she knew if she could just touch his robe. But then Jesus felt the power come out of him and turned around, stopped in his tracks, because something just happened. Distraction or change of direction. And so her faith healed her. That's great, right? Awesome. But it's bad news for Jairus. While he was still speaking to her, messengers arrived from the home of Jairus, the leader of the synagogue. They told him, "Your daughter is dead. There's no use troubling the teacher now." We missed it. It's over. We do that every day. Well, Jesus didn't show up the way I wanted him to, so he didn't meet my demands when I wanted him to. I just knew today I was going to get that job, but he didn't show up. There's so much, I could go off so much on that, just that one part right there. But I don't feel like you want to hear it. Do you see it? We do that every day. Jesus doesn't show up the way we think Jesus should show up every time. He doesn't heal our marriage the way we think he should heal our marriage every time. I know mine, I begged and begged and begged, and I just didn't get anywhere. And finally I was like, forget it. But that's not what Jesus told me to do. He said, no. I've got you regardless. If she comes back or not, I've got you. And I've got her. Whether you get that job or not, you think he doesn't have you in his hands? Maybe he's trying to show us something and we're missing it. See, we call it distraction, but maybe he's trying to change our direction. Maybe there's something in our heart that he hadn't quite got a hold of yet that he's trying to get, and we're too worried about things looking the way we want it to look. While he was still speaking to her, messengers arrived from the home of Jairus, the leader of the synagogue, and told him, "Your daughter is dead. There's no trouble. There's no use troubling the teacher now. It's over. It's done. It's good. We're good. It's over. Lost it." But Jesus overheard them and said to Jairus, "Don't be afraid. Just have faith." Now, that's easier said than done, Jesus. We know that, right? That's easier said than done. How many of you, you're struggling, you're going through something, and your friend tells you, just have faith. Just keep the faith. Just stay focused on Jesus. I know, but I'm dying over here. Right? My life is falling apart over here. I'm trying to keep the faith. You know what I'm talking? You know what I'm talking? We all do it. We're all guilty. Don't look at me like I'm the only one. Then Jesus stopped the crowd and wouldn't let anyone go with him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. And I almost started with this verse. Because sometimes you're letting people tag along with you that you should have shut out a long time ago. We're supposed to love everyone. I get that. But there's people that you're keeping around you for a safety net or a comfort zone to talk and gossip with and do destructive things with your life that you know you shouldn't be a part of to begin with. Because you know God's trying to take you in this other direction, but yet you're having a hard time letting go. You know that God's taking you in a new direction, but for some reason you don't want to let go. I have some friends I had to cut out. I had some friends I cut out it seems like every week here lately. I've had some friends I've had to cut off my Facebook or block or unfollow because some of the stuff it doesn't fit with me. It's not who I am. And I know if I see some of that stuff popping up, it's going to trigger those thoughts going the wrong direction. Because see, there is a distraction that will take you in the wrong direction, but sometimes God is trying to distract you to take you in the direction He's wanting to take you. And that's the point. We've got to figure out, we've got to discern the distraction. So when you figure that out next week, let me know how it goes. And, I'm just playing. I'm going to help you. I'm going to try to help you, show you this. Like, I know the rain's putting everybody to sleep and nobody is, focusing on what I'm saying, and it's the rain and it's too loud and this. You see what I'm saying? Like, our distractions, our brain gets distracted so easy. Any little thing can take our brain and just rabbit trail. We think we can multitask. But studies have shown, there's studies starting from the 70s, date all the way till now, studies over and over and over have proved over and over and over that we cannot multitask. We think we can, but we can't multitask. Our brain is not wired that way. Even Jesus, do you notice, he focused at one thing at a time. Now, he would drop the church to take care of the desperate dad, and the woman that had the faith bigger than anybody else in the crowd at the time, he stopped and turned around to. Hang on, I think I wrote something down here. I jotted some notes down just before. I didn't have time to study them, so. Okay, this is something I thought of, I came up with. In business, they teach you the difference in what is important and what is urgent. And so, when we go through our sales training and classes and stuff, they start talking about, what is the difference in what is important and what is urgent. And see, a lot of times we get those things confused. Because see, what we take and do as urgent isn't actually important. But see, Jesus, who was more important, Jairus or the woman? Jairus, to today's society, he was a leader of the synagogue. He had more power. He had more status. He had more responsibility. He had more this. He was an important man. But the woman, by today's society, today's standard, was not important. But Jesus stopped for the woman on the way to the daughter. So it feels like, oh, so what is it? Here's what I got. Do you ever get to doing something and you feel this little pull inside of you? How many of you have been walking out of the grocery store and out of nowhere, you turn and you look and you see somebody needing a hand with something, but you just glance, and the next thing you know, you glance right back and it's over. You missed it. That was that little pull. See, that woman, she just needed a slight pull on that rope. She didn't need a production. She didn't need this huge production of, or whatever. She just needed to touch his robe as he passed. And I feel like God operates that way a lot. You see, because Jesus, he was being pushed in one direction, but he couldn't resist that pull. Do you see where I'm going with this? Do you see what I'm saying? It was that little pull that all of a sudden took priority over being in a rush and being pushed in one direction. See, we're always being pushed in one direction. And I know you hear it. You hear it, and you feel that pull in this other direction. But then you second guess it, you overanalyze it, and then it's gone. You ignore it, and you go on. See, what God was trying to show you, a direction, we took as a distraction. And we do it every day. We do it every day. What is it when you're walking one way out of the grocery store and all of a sudden you see a piece of paper that's blowing over here that you wouldn't have seen, you just happen to look? It's not a coincidence, you just happen. God's showing you something. He may be trying to take you across someone's path that desperately needs you, that's just waiting. All she wanted was to just barely touch his robe, and she knew that everything she needed, she knew that if she could connect in that way, that it would take care of everything else. Jesus didn't push her to the side. He didn't say, oh, watch out, keep going. No, he stopped. He stopped. And we've got to get this. We've got to get it, because I feel like God tries to show us every day. He pulls at us every day for something. But we're so concerned with ourselves, and I'm the guiltiest of this. I'll be on my way somewhere, and I'll see someone on the side of the road. I'll let off the gas, not even realizing what I'm doing, hit the brakes, and then I'll be like, oh, well, I don't have time. Like, I was already starting to slow down before I even clicked in my head what was really going on. I missed it. I missed my opportunity. Or what God was saying, do this. I took it as a distraction. Oh, I can't. I don't have time. I got to get to the church. See, you're doing great in your responsibilities. I understand you've got to make money, you've got to pay for your bills, you've got to feed your kids, but sometimes your kids just need you to look over them. Sometimes your kids need you to just play with them. I have to play Barbies sometimes. But they need that. They need it more than they need your money. And I feel like that's where we've failed as a society. We're so worried about earning money to send them to college or put them on an elite team of something or a special school. But sometimes they just need to know that you love them and you care about them. That's the main point I've seen from this whole story. Jesus seen his son, this desperate dad, that needed him right then. He didn't say, wait, Jairus, I'm doing this. You'll have to wait. You'll wait till maybe tomorrow. We'll play that tomorrow. We'll do that tomorrow. Maybe next weekend, next time y'all come, we can do that. Jesus seen this desperate daughter that if she could just touch him, she knew that his love would heal her. She had the faith. If she could just touch him, just brush against his robe. But he stopped. He didn't tell her to go away. I'm busy. Can't you see this is an emergency? I've got somewhere to be. He stopped. I think we're good at taking care of our responsibilities, but we're failing when it comes to loving the way that Jesus loved. I think we're failing in areas that desperately need our attention. So that's what God showed me this week. Not that you don't matter, but he said, if you don't start loving your kids now, you're going to get to a point to where they're not going to be around for you to love. And they're not going to recognize it when you do. And you're going to set them on a path that they didn't choose. So yesterday, I took them to the zoo, and we went and had a great time. And we had fun. Whatever they wanted to do, that's what we did. I didn't care about anything else. I looked at my watch a couple of times. I had to turn my phone off a couple of times because I was getting text messages that I didn't need to have right now. Didn't want to have. Because God had told me that if you don't start putting your kids first, you're not going to have them to put anywhere. And so that's what I did. I got distracted a few times. Phone rang a few times. Text messages started coming through a few times. And I had to put it down. No, God didn't say go to the zoo so you could be on your phone all day while the kids look around. It said engage and have fun with your kids. That's what he told me to do. And when I realized that God was having to change my week and give me new direction because I wasn't spending the time with my kids that I needed to be, it hurt. It hurt. Sometimes it hurts when we're told to do things that we think we're already doing. Sometimes it hurts to be told we're doing something wrong. We can either get mad or frustrated and go about our own way, or we can say, you know what? Dang it. I haven't been spending the time with them that I need to be spending with them. And so, that's what I had to do. I knew what I wanted to talk about today. I didn't get to my last point. We may get there, I don't know, we'll see. We've got to start recognizing what is God putting in front of us right now. Not necessarily what's more important as a whole, but what is God saying right here, right now? This is what you need to do right here, right now. Quit worrying about how it's going to work out. We're not in control. Yesterday was the only day I had to put together this message, to actually sit down and put it together. And And God said, don't worry about that part. That's not what I'm telling you to do. I'm telling you to spend some time with your kids and love your kids right here, right now. He said, quit worrying about how it's going to come together. Stop worrying about how it's going to work. That's not your job to begin with. Jesus stopped the crowd, and he wouldn't let anyone go in except for Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. And when they came to the home of the synagogue leader, Jesus saw much commotion, a weeping and wailing. He went inside and asked, why all this commotion and weeping? The child isn't dead. She's only asleep. And here's the biggest point. I could teach on this all day. The crowd laughed at him. Okay, wait. For a minute there, stop. Your friends are a little bit more fake than what you think. They were just crying. Okay, if your daughter just died and your family and your friends were over there and they were crying because she was dying, they wouldn't stop and laugh at somebody because they said, oh, she's just asleep. I don't know the whole story. I don't know the backstory. I don't know, but there's something wrong with this part right here. There's something the crowd laughed at him, at Jesus. Had they never heard of Jesus before? I don't know that part. But they were just mourning this death, and all of a sudden they're laughing. To me, something in my head triggers, I don't know, I haven't done a deep enough study on this part yet, but there's something here, and there may be somebody here. You may know the story. You may know what it is. I don't know. But there's something here. You don't just go from mourning to laughing like that. And I started thinking like, man, I don't know, maybe they were paid to mourn or something. Maybe they were just like, you know, I feel like there's something fake there. I don't know. I could be wrong. Anyway, we'll move on. Well, I'm almost out of time. I'm out of time. But he made them leave. And he took the girl's father and mother and his 3 disciples into the room where the girl was laying. Holding her hand, he said to her, I can't pronounce that. Talitha kum. I don't know. Which means, little girl, get up. And the girl, who was 12 years old, immediately stood up and walked around. They were overwhelmed and totally amazed. Jesus gave them strict orders, do not tell anyone what had happened, and then he told them to give her something to eat. Did the distractions keep her from living? Jesus still made it. Do you realize that? Jesus still made it. She still lived. So he took this church service where he started, and this man disrupting the church service because his daughter was dying. Jesus turned his attention. He left the crowd to follow the one, to take care of the one, and on the way had another distraction. This woman touches his robe. This desperate woman of healing touches his robe because her faith was bigger than her problem, and she was healed. Jesus stopped the flashing lights and the code red and the emergency to talk to her. Was told it's too late. We missed our shot. The girl's dead. Jesus said, no, I've got this. Showed up on his time, not on their time, not on our time, on his time. And the girl still walked, still got up and ate, still lived. We're so worried about our situation not working out the way that we want it to work out, the way we think it should work out, the way it's supposed to work out by the world's standards, the world's patterns, the world's religion, the world's ideas, our friends' ideas, our family's idea. It doesn't work that way, but we insist on it working our way every time. What if we just scrapped the whole thing and actually woke up in the morning and said, God, I'm going to trust in you in what I do and everywhere I go and what I say today? What if we just put it in his hands and we just go that way that he's showing us and quit worrying about all the distractions because maybe he's trying to change our direction? Man, if you need to be late to church to stop and help somebody on the side of the road that's trying to change a tire in the pouring down rain, it's cool. We're going to forgive you. We're not going to count points against you for being late. It's okay. Because guess what? That person may need a whole lot more of what you got than what you're coming in here to get. That's somewhat of a joke. You see what I'm saying? God's trying to, we're all just a vessel. Do you get that? We're all just a vessel. But if we don't want God to flow through us, we don't have to let him. We can stick to our schedule. We can stick to the busyness. We can stick to our plan. Or we can let God use us and speak through us and through our actions. Sometimes the woman trying to get her groceries loaded up in the car with however many kids, sometimes she just needs your hand to say, here, let me hold the buggy at least from rolling off while you load the groceries. Other than your judgmental mind of what she's wearing or how she's looking or how she end up with 5 kids. It doesn't matter. That part's irrelevant. The guy on the side of the road trying to change the tire in the pouring down rain. I know he may look like a thug, but he may need your help too. We've got to discern the distraction from direction. God wants to use us every day, all day long, but we're so stuck on our schedule. We're so stuck on ourselves, on our own things, our own agendas, that we ignore it all day long. We ignore what God's trying to show us and do through us all day long. We've got to open ourselves up. We've got to. And we can do it. And if we do, guess what? Our whole world is going to change. I can see it. Our whole world is going to change. And that's my whole purpose. We've got to change the way we think about each other and the way we treat each other. We don't have to agree with them, but we can change the way we treat them. We don't have to agree with their decisions or their actions, but we can change the way we treat them. So that's my prayer. That's my thing, is what we think might be a distraction may be the very thing that God is trying to transform someone's life through. Are you willing? Are we willing? I know I want to be. I know I face people every day, and there's a lot of people I'd like to punch in the face, but that's not what God's telling me to do. That's not what God's designed me to do. That's not what He's called me to do. That's not what He's telling me to do. And it may be the very way that you handle that situation that speaks to them. And they may not speak to them until a week down the road. You know what? That dude should have been mad at me. But he didn't. He just smiled at me. Was he being sarcastic? Why didn't he blow up on me? Why didn't he get mad at me? Why did he say that? What's so different about him? See, when we start trying to figure out how God's going to work, we missed it. We just got to do what God's telling us to do. and let Him handle the rest. It's just like that grocery receipt we talked about last week that I told you about. As you go through your day, you're going to be faced with opportunity after opportunity after opportunity for God to use you. We've got to start recognizing it. We've got to see it. Feel that pull. When everybody else is pushing, recognize the pull. When everybody else is pulling in a million different directions, feel that nudge. Hear it. Hear that voice. I know you hear it. That's it. That's all I've got for you today.